Welcome to The Grand Balance, a biweekly podcast hosted by two working grandmas navigating the beautiful chaos of work and family. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Really good. Excited for today's guest.
I know. Today we have a guest, which I've been so looking forward to. Our topic is very timely. It's about water safety. And we know so many families this time of year are around pools and different other types of water. So I've been looking forward to this one for sure. We've talked a lot on our podcast about water safety, and now it's nice to have an expert. I would like to introduce our water safety expert, Carolyn Lechner-Uribe. She's an aquatic supervisor and has 18 years of experience as a lifeguard, swim instructor, and American Red Cross instructor. She has taught swim lessons to over 12,000 children, so I'm sure she has plenty of great stories to share with us. She has overseen different grant programs to provide free swim lessons for the last 19 years, and some of these are such amazing programs. I've firsthand seen the results of them, and it's so important that we can do this in our community. I can safely say she has been involved in pretty much any type of water program and selflessly gives back to our local community. Welcome to the podcast, Carolyn.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are definitely excited to have you.
Yeah, and I'm really excited because one, I have a pool, so does Sharon. So we want to make sure as grandparents we're doing everything right when kids are within our pool. And then two, I was just told this week I take my grandson to his swim lesson every week. He's 2. And I was told I need to add the 1-year-old granddaughter to that same time frame and lesson. So I'm going to be juggling a lot. Anyway, this week it's all about swimming. So we're excited to learn from you.
Yes,
I
for
love it.
sure. I have the 2-year-old and a baby that are both going to be starting swim lessons in Texas too. So we're looking forward to a lot of your tips and tricks.
I'm so happy to be here and to share everything. I feel like my whole life is just about the water. So it's excited to be able to share that with you guys.
Yes, that's why you're here, and we're so excited. I guess the first question naturally to ask is, what do you think is the best time to start swim lessons?
Yeah, so I think swim instruction should really start early on. But what swim instruction is going to look like is going to change based on the age of the child. So, really, you should be working with your child, getting them comfortable in the water during bath time at an early age. So, this helps immensely with swim lessons by the time they get to the pool. And you can just work on like getting their eyes or their ears wet and work on back floats in the tub before you even start swim lessons. And then the American Red Cross, we offer parent and child aquatic programs starting as young as 6 months to be educating the parent. So that's why that parent is involved too. It's just as important to have that education be with the parent. And then as children get to be older, the lessons should become more skill based. So we want them learning how to get back to the surface, how to control their breathing, how to float in the water or how to tread water, how to turn around and move through the water, and then safely exit the water. So I always tell parents that swim lessons are a layer of protection so they don't make a child drown proof. Even a child who's taken swim lessons needs supervision around the water. But definitely getting them into swim lessons as early as possible is ideal.
Such great tips because it's so many kids you see start later, and I'm sure it's so much more difficult when they're on the edge crying for mama.
It is. We have an age group of toddlers 2 to 3 years old, which is often when parents will try and get their kids in, and the parent doesn't want to get in the water, which
Oh,
is
no.
understandable, right? Maybe, like, 6 months after having a kid, you don't wanna put a bathing suit on and get in the water with your child, but if your child starts swim lessons without that parent and child aquatics class first, it really kind of disrupts that bridge of they're so comfortable with their parent having this brand new experience of a new pool, a new instructor. It's cold water. It's not like bath time. That can be really jarring for children. So, starting in the bathtub and starting with parent and child aquatics just is so important for their development.
That makes
I
a lot
love
of
that.
sense. I do not get in the pool with my 2-year-old grandson. I sit there with him, but I do not get in. But I think now I've got to with the 1-year-old. because she's not gonna know just to sit still. So,
Right.
yeah.
So it
Good.
looks like you're gonna be doing a lot of bathing suit washing and, showering, Angela.
Yes,
That's what I gather from that.
and I am very thrilled not to be having to put on a bathing suit every week. Okay, when and not in the comfort of my own backyard.
Exactly, right?
So speaking of backyard, so I had a 4th of July party, we have one every year. What tips do you have for when families are having a party when there's a pool there? Like, what are the basics that everybody should know? And maybe any extra tips? We all kinda know keep your eyes out, but beyond that, are there anything else we should be considering?
So, my biggest recommendation is to designate somebody who is a water watcher. And this is like a specific adult who knows like their job is to watch the water. At parties, we often assume that everyone is watching the kids. And so the problem is that when everyone is responsible, sometimes no one is actually responsible. And so the water watcher needs to be like not on their phone, they're not preparing food, they're not socializing, they're not drinking alcohol. Their job during that period of time is to actively watch the water as if they were the lifeguard. Like their job is watching the pool. And so you can rotate that responsibility between adults. So every 15 or 20 minutes, another adult takes on that responsibility so that one person isn't doing it for the entire party. But that's huge. I mean, that's why people go to pools with lifeguards is for that supervision. So even in your own backyard pool, you wanna make sure that one adult gets that responsibility. I would also establish pool rules before the kids get in. So things like no running, no pushing, no holding someone underwater, no diving unless you know the area is deep enough and is designated for diving. And then having like a knowledge of what children are strong swimmers and which children are not strong swimmers is really important too. So weak swimmers or anyone who may be a non-swimmer should have appropriate supervision and when appropriate like put a life jacket on them if they're a weak swimmer, and a life jacket alone like isn't going to be, it's just one of those extra layers of protection. And then once everyone's out of the water, secure your pool. So make sure gates and barriers are closed. Don't just assume the risk is over just because everyone gets out of the water.
I love the pool rule idea because having had my pool since my kids were competent swimmers when we put the pool in, but I never thought to sit down and go over the rules with everyone, which I love that. What we usually did hire a lifeguard, which is nice because you know that's someone's job. But a lot of times, like you're saying too, it could just be a get together, not a big party where just having that established adult is such a great tip.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you had said, don't be on social media, make sure they're focused. And that is a big ask, to be honest. Most people have their phones with them. And it made me think of, how they have those signs around the community about the dangers of swimming. And the one that's by our store here on the main road says one text, a child can drown within one text. And that is so scary to think about. So to
Yeah,
your point, to
that
make sure
hits
you say
home.
no phones. Like, if you're gonna be the designated water safety person, no phones or water watcher.
Yeah.
Yes, because the distractions are so easily there. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And then the no alcohol. I'm thinking of my 4th of July party. I'm thinking, well, there's only about 2 people that didn't drink, but
Well, no, you have to start the rotation before the drinking
right.
starts,
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
We'll have to say, "Hey, if you're gonna plan to drink, you be first in the rotation."
Exactly.
yeah, Carolyn, I have a question. You brought up a life jacket, and I know when my kids were little, I was pretty against floaties because I didn't ever want them to be reliant on floaties. I don't know if I was right or wrong. It was just like an idea I had in my head. What are your thoughts about floaties? I know, like, obviously in a boat, they're in a life jacket, or if they're not competent swimmers, but can you go over your thoughts about floaties and life jackets and so forth?
Yeah, so floaties and I see like floaties or inner tubes as being different from a life jacket. So a floaty isn't going to give you the same flotation as a life jacket will. Life jackets are created to and designed to keep your head above the water, and that if you are leaned forward face down, that buoyancy is all secured in the front so that you end up head up in the water. So life jackets are okay for helping to keep a child safe. Oftentimes, we see that floaties or inner tubes will create a false sense of competency for a child and they can get loose, right? A floaty can fall off an arm, an inner tube. At our 4th of July party, I saw a child dive for an inner tube. It got pushed away from her and she was not a strong swimmer. And so a parent had to scoop her up. And so, in that sense, those are not safe alternatives for kids compared to a life jacket.
Okay, that makes sense, and I never thought about it because, like I said, we never used floaties, but it never occurred to me that, yeah, a kid could go forward with their face with floaties on, and it really isn't gonna help.
Right.
Well, and this happened a few years ago, and I think I may mentioned it before. My little niece, she didn't know how to swim, so she had floaties. She was doing fine. She left the pool to go to the restroom, and so she took her floaties off, and then she jumped right back in the water, forgetting
The
that
floaties.
floaties back on. And luckily, a cousin of mine happened to see her and dive in, fully clothed. So I could see about that. You still need that watcher. At our party, my grandson did not use floaties because he's trying to practice to swim. So the parents are saying, hey, let's keep you practicing today. But another cousin that's his exact same age was in floaties. The grandparents were there, they were all watching, but it was just a different philosophy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Every parent has their own ideas, but I guess
Yeah,
ultimately we just
or
wanna
as long
keep
as they're
kids safe.
watching, I suppose, let the kids, have a little fun so they can at least enjoy something.
But everyone has to be watching, or someone has to be watching. Like Carolyn said, sometimes when you think someone's watching, no one's watching.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the Coast Guard now there's two different forms of life jackets that the Coast Guard has approved. And there's the like traditional vest kind that you'll see, but they also have approved the one where it's a floaty arm attached to a chest piece and then it attaches in the back. And that one is Coast Guard approved. It's very similar to a floaty, but it has that chest piece that would raise a child's face out of the water if they ended up face down.
Oh, I've seen those advertised, and I wondered how they worked.
I have
Mhm.
one. I
Oh,
have
you
one in
do?
the house. Yeah, and it looks different, but it works.
And you just have to make sure that you wear it properly. I saw an adult once put it on with the flotation piece on the back, and so it actually stuck their kid face down in the water.
Oh, no.
So yeah, just making sure that you wear them properly is important too.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Do you have any specific tips for parents or grandparents who have a pool at their house?
Yeah, so I would say that layers of protection are just really important. So you don't want your entire water safety plan to depend on, one person to remember to do one thing correctly every single time. So you want to make sure that you have a fence that is completely like four-sided and separates the pool from the home. It should be self-closing and a self-latching gate. And then consider like a door alarm or a pool alarm and keep the pool area secure when it's not being used. You should have rescue equipment accessible and you should know where it is. Adults in the home should learn CPR and they should know how to recognize somebody who might be in distress. Children should learn their basic swimming skills and water safety skills. And then I would say create very clear family rules around the pool. So, one of my favorites is to make sure that children always ask permission before entering the water. So, we want kids to understand that getting into the pool is something that can happen with an adult's knowledge and permission. So, you want multiple layers. So, if one layer fails, another layer is still there.
I'm gonna incorporate that with my granddaughters right away, and I'm gonna share this with my daughter just to get in the habit of always asking permission before entering the water. I love that, and I had not thought of that.
Yeah. And so I think I've checked all the boxes with the exception of having something what did you call it? Like tools or
Rescue equipment.
Oh, rescue equipment. So, like a ring buoy or even like a lifeguard rescue tube.
yeah. And I guess
That's exactly what I was thinking, Angela. I have everything except for that, and then I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if my cleaning net would like, you could throw that
It
out to
could.
grab them.
It could. So, we will teach in swim lessons, we teach something called reach or throw, but don't go. And it basically teaches that you can reach something out to a child, you can throw something out to a child, but it teaches children not to jump in after their friends to save them. And then we experiment with a noodle that you can reach out, a towel that you spin up like a rope that you could reach out, a broom that might be lying around in the backyard that you can reach out. So there's tons of things already in your backyard or in your house that you could use as rescue equipment without it being official rescue equipment. But if you go to like an HOA pool that has a ring buoy, it's nice to know where that is since they may not have a noodle or a broom that you would be able to use.
yeah.
Yeah, I even like the idea of having that ring buoy actually here, though, now that you've mentioned it.
Well, what I like is the idea of teaching kids not to jump in to try to save and do it, so they can do it properly. I was hooked on the show The Pit, and one of the episodes was a little girl, she was probably 8, and she jumped in to save her little sister who fell in, and then the 8-year-old ended up drowning.
I saw that, and I don't like
And
episodes like that.
it was under grandmother's care, by the way, too.
Oh, the worst, right?
That was
Well, it's all bad, but
but I like the idea that we don't think about, "Wait, we should be teaching the kids not to just jump in and how they can help somebody."
yeah,
Right.
so true. You wouldn't think about that, but
We
that's something that should be
jump
talked
in.
about.
We would just jump in and do it, and. So the other thing is how we're talking a lot about little kids, but what risks do older children and teenagers face around the water?
Yeah, so sometimes teenagers are overlooked in the water safety conversation because we have so much of a focus on young children. But older teens and children, they have their own risks. So they are more likely to go swimming without adult supervision. They are more likely to go into natural bodies of water. They might jump or dive from heights, and take risks because their friends are watching, and so they might also overestimate their swimming ability, and a teenager who is, a strong swimmer or even just a decent swimmer in the water may not understand currents or waves, cold water, changing depths, or any underwater hazards in an ocean or a lake or a river, and alcohol and substance use can also be a factor as teens get older too, and so those things can affect their judgment or their coordination and reaction time. And then there's peer pressure. And so sometimes dangerous decision isn't just like I can't swim. It's more of like I don't want to be the only person that says no. And so encouraging that water safety education as kids get older is really important and it's just going to look a little bit different from a water safety conversation with your child.
Yeah, we can't forget about the older kids because, as you said, it does present a completely different set of risks, and there's just so many outside factors that can especially peer pressure, that can affect their judgment.
And a confidence level. There is something about teenager confidence that they think that they can do anything, and it can be really scary.
Yeah,
And not to be gender biased, but boys especially.
yep, I
They
was gonna say my son in Hawaii, we were in Kauai and the waves were really big, and he saw all these kids, Hawaiian kids, body surfing and stuff. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that." And he got in and he was getting torn up and he came out pretty quickly and he had this scared look on his face like, "What if I could have died right now." And he never wanted to go back in after that during that trip because it was scary. He wasn't used to those kind of waves.
You know
No,
what?
it's
The same thing happened to me. I think it was my senior year of high school, and I played water polo, I swam, I was a very strong swimmer, and I got into some 7-foot waves that just threw me to the ground in the water, and I remember thinking, "Oh, man, this isn't even safe for me, that's crazy," and had to get out of the water.
Right, well, good thing yeah, and you had I guess, the knowledge and confidence to get out and
Yeah,
not.
she knew better. That's the thing is, I mean, the same thing with I can tell you stories about my son too, and the one time he gets caught in a riptide, he never really cared to go in the ocean again after that because I think it scared him enough to realize he didn't have control or the ability to get out of the way of that water.
Mm. Do you have any programs or do you teach teens differently?
Not particularly. A lot of it is usually like overcoming a fear. That's often what I see with teenagers or adults that are coming in, and you do kind of have to teach differently in the sense of a lot of the things that you know as an instructor for teaching smaller kids. I'm not going to tell a teenager to practice blowing at the water like it's their birthday candles. And with small infants, there's a trick of you blow on their face to get them to hold their breath before you dunk them underwater. I'm not gonna do that with a teenager, and so you do kind of have to have more of a conversation with them. You're just very frank about the facts, and I think that they appreciate that what style of teaching.
Yeah, it's probably more relatable to them for sure.
Mhm.
I wanna switch it back to young ones just because that's kind of our world right now, but what do you do with whatever someone's starting swim lessons, 2, 3 years old, where the kid just will starts crying and will not get in the water? Are there any tricks parents can use to kinda calm a child that has that fear? I fortunately never had to deal with that, but I saw plenty of kids going through that.
And that's a great question. Normally, I like to get the parent involved because the parent is already going to be kind of a calming presence for them. And so getting the parent involved, we have some toys that we will use to try and coax, a child near the water that they can play with, like, a Buzz and Woody toy or a little mermaid toy, just to give them something familiar and to not push it too hard. You don't want to, take a kid into a water and dunk their head underwater when they're crying, because that's just going to heighten that fear. And so some of it also can be, I've seen different genders of instruction be better or worse for children. A lot of kids really end up gravitating towards a female instructor because I think it feels very maternal for them. And so we've seen that kind of help with little children who might be scared. Just trying a different instructor can sometimes help.
That's funny because my grandson, he has a male instructor with when I take him, and one day he wasn't there, and he would not go to the other instructor, and it was a female, and he says, "Nope." He wanted his routine, to your
They
point.
get really attached to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't get him to go in for anything. We just had to cancel that day. We just had to sit there and let it go by, the time go.
Yeah, like Carolyn says, it's probably better because I remember when my kids were young and you had the old school people like, "Just toss them in the water and they'll figure it out," and I was like, "Yeah, we're definitely not doing that," but there's a whole school of people that still believe, like, that's the way to teach kids, which I'm sure, Carolyn, you have your thoughts on that because 'cause I'm sure they're not good.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that you just never know what's going on in that kid's life. And sometimes it's like the air temperature is a little bit too cool for them. And so they don't want to get in, or the pool smells different than normal and they don't want to get in. And so sometimes they can't articulate that. And the easiest way they can do that is by crying. And that's what you end up having to deal with.
So, my family, and I'm Gen X, but that I have younger siblings, that was their philosophy. My dad threw us all in. My 2 siblings are great swimmers. I am a horrific swimmer. I do not like the water, and I think it was because of that old school philosophy. I could save myself, but if I had to, really jump in and, like, let's say in the ocean and try to save somebody in the ocean, I there's no way I'd be able to do it.
I didn't know this about you, Angela. We grew up on swim teams, so we were strong swimmers, but I didn't know you weren't a big water person.
Nope, I have a pool and I go in it about once a year, maybe once every once a year is a lot for me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really scary to get that experience of being thrown in the water.
But I did love to boogie board because I think I had that safety net, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. Well, Carolyn, what is one thing you want our listeners to take away from this episode, since we are kind of running short on time now, about water safety?
I think the one thing is just that water safety kind of comes in layers. So it's not just about swim lessons or a life jacket or a pool fence that makes someone safe. It's all of those things all together. It's making sure that you have the right supervision, that you have pool rules, that people are prepared if there's ever an emergency, that adults know CPR, they know how to make a rescue. And it's all about just kind of making those good decisions. And I think that it's a really important thing to respect the water without being afraid of it.
I love that. I'm definitely going to take away from this talking to my daughter about making sure the girls always ask permission, and I will set up consistent pool rules. So that's how the changes we're going to make around here.
yeah, ditto. I think same. The we both have pools. We both are going to be going through this as they get older. The one thing I do say, because we have a high wall on the back of our pool, and so everybody jumps down, and I'm constantly yelling, "No head first, feet first, no head first." Um, that's the rule here, and
Yeah, we
everybody
have a lot of feet first here too.
yeah. Well, thank you. This has been really great. I really
Yes, thank you so much for your time and all your valuable tips and experience. It's something we've been waiting a long time for, and I'm so glad we finally were able to get you.
Yeah, you guys are so welcome. It's been a pleasure to get to chat with you guys about water safety.
all right. Well, great. Ha have a great night, everyone.
Thanks for listening. See you in a few weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so we can continue to grow our community. Also follow us on Instagram at Working Grandmas Podcast, on Facebook at The Grand Balance, a Working Grandmas Podcast, and join our LinkedIn group, Working Grandmas. You can also email us at info@workinggrandmas.com or message us through any of our social media platforms.